Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Square One podcast. We're taking our guests back to square one where they first started their careers or their businesses, and we're going to learn from their failures. Square One's brought to you by Omni Home Services, which represents Chattanooga Home Inspector, Elevate Home Staging Design, Nuclear Pest Control, Radon Eraser, and hopefully some more business entities in the future. I'm your host, Malcolm Godwin. Thank you for listening. Today, we have the one and only Madison McCann with Speakeasy Productions as a co-host, and we have Mac Hibbett with Crye-Leike Realty with us. Welcome, Mac.
Hey, what's going on?
Mac, if you don't know, you may not have heard of him because he doesn't advertise a ton, and we're going to bust his balls for that. But Mac is a real estate agent, but also manages about 180 properties. And has 2 employees, and this year he is coaching both of my kids' baseball teams.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got the Red Sox and the Braves.
The Red Sox and the Braves. Thanks for doing that. I don't know how you have the time to work if you're doing that.
Well, it's not about working. It's about connections, family bonding, and life outside of work.
That's what we're going to talk about today, is what it is all about. So, well, let's just get right to it, Mac. Thanks for being here, bro. I appreciate it. Mac is a property manager for us, one of our long-term rental properties. But, Mac, tell us, let's just jump right into it. You're coaching 2 kids' baseball teams. You have 4 kids almost now.
Almost, yes. I got 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2, and got 1 on the way in June.
Good for you.
Yep, all boys.
All boys.
All boys. Don't know what the 4th one's going to be. You know, we're busting at the seams in our house, and we're excited. You know, maybe we'll go for a 5th or a 6th.
So tell us, how do you manage 180 properties and still have time to coach baseball teams?
Well, I think it comes down with prioritizing the work. You know, I mean, every single day there's, you know, a billion things that you got to do. I mean, you know how to run businesses and things like that. And you just got to prioritize the top things that you got to knock off each day, and create systems in place to be able to accomplish the things that need to be accomplished. And so
when you say systems in place, what systems do you have in place to help you properly manage properties?
That's a great question. The thing is, there's a lot of trade secrets in my industry that anybody can manage properties.
Yeah.
And so do I want to share all those? No, I mean, I don't necessarily want to, but it does come with a program. You know, you got to have a good program, good software. Every company, whether, you know, you have a good software that sends out, you know, blast emails to customer relationship support, you know, tenant contacts, you know, in the property management world, you got to be able to collect and receive rent. You got to be able to market the properties. You got to be able to control and handle and coordinate all the maintenance. So it's a lot of tracking. You could go as old school as you want and simple piece of paper, files, and a drawer system, or you can get with the times and get a program that can track a lot of that stuff and keep things organized. And so those systems we have in place, certain programs that do help us keep track. And then we have lists. You know, our priorities for first are vacant properties. We got to lease them. So we're constantly marketing properties to acquire tenants. Of the ones that we have occupied, you got to keep the tenants happy, keep the owners happy.
How do you put your properties out there? Like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah. Well, so back in the day, I used to do Craigslist.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, everybody did.
Yeah.
Craigslist. I mean, I get scammed on Craigslist like once a week. I didn't even know that Craigslist was still a thing.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to do the scams on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah. So what is the platform now? Apartments.com? Is it just on the interwebs?
Yeah, I mean, those things are great sites to do. You know, we have the ability to go up on over 25 different websites. In the studying that I've done, you know, 94% of people are finding properties through the internet before they even contact a manager, a real estate agent, or anybody. So buyers and tenants have the access of the web, which is fantastic. So they're the smartest that they've ever been. They have all the tools and the tech at their fingertips where they can research and analyze any subdivision, any market, pricing, which is a huge thing. And so they can make educated decisions on what they want. And so you do have to be out there on those sites, and as many as possible. Now, there's a couple of big name sites that we go to. Zillow.
Okay.
You know, Zillow.
So Zillow's
I don't like giving a shout out to Zillow. They have a management program software.
There's that. I mean, it is what it is, dude. So, Mac, we're going to talk about Zillow. I'm really excited. And we're going to just jump right into creating a business of value. So after the Tom Ferry event that we had, shout out to our buddy Doug Edrington for putting that on. You came to me Tom Ferry called out everybody in the room and was like, "What's your plan? What's your purpose?" And you shared with me after that, like, "Hey, I thought about it, and I'm gonna just get after it, man." So you said, "I'm gonna grow my property management company to blank." Tell us about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was definitely a gut shot. I feel like every time you go to one of those speaking events,
hell yeah,
they kind of like fire you up, get you motivated, and you're like, dude, what the hell am I doing?
That's the purpose,
right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? You know? And for that one, his main comment, like you said, was, what is your purpose? Where are you going to be in 10 years? That was his specific thing. Where are you going to be in 10 years? And do you want to keep doing the same rat race over and over and over, which is growing and doing the same systems, you know, at the pace that whatever you're doing. And, you know, that one really did give me a gut shot and was like, do I want to be doing what I'm doing? So yeah, you know, I like property management. I like investment. I am very good at what I do, and I think I could be doing it better. And that's where I was, you know. And I think I told you there, you know, like, hey, I'm managing about 180 properties. You know, I need to be. Well, at that time, I was probably at 150 properties, but I was like, man, I need to get up to 500 units.
So 500 units is your goal. Is that right?
That's not my 10-year goal. That's a goal, you know? So basically my last goal. So I don't know when that event was. What was that? Summer?
I remember it being cold.
It was fall.
Was it fall?
It was cold.
October?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then we started
October, summer, same thing.
So, okay. Yeah. Actually, no, it's coming back. All right. So basically he said, you know, hey, you need to start doing your planning in third or fourth quarter, beginning of fourth quarter, so that your first quarter's, you know, rock solid.
Sure.
And I've always been doing that. Like, that's something that I always do. I always sit down around the October timeframe and I'm analyzing, hey, how am I going to increase or be better in the next year? Well, he said that. We sat down. I made a goal of, you know, I wanted to increase we were at 150 to 180. So that was literally my goal, which, to be honest, normally I set goals that are very, maybe not realistic, you know, to push me. And the funny thing is, you know, we get to December, we have 180 properties. So literally, I was talking with my team and I was like, we got to reanalyze our goal system, because we were able to grow that fast in that short amount of time. And so we haven't talked about where we want to be this year. That was our plan for 2024, was to be at 180 properties, and we're there. So.
All right, so maybe I made it up in my mind, but I am pretty certain Mac told me his stretch goal, and we broke down the numbers, and it was pretty easy. So he told me, he's saying 500, but like 10 years from now, you should have a stretch goal, right? So I remember Mac telling me, and disclaimer to any of our listeners, that we should always build any company like we're going to sell it, because we have to have an exit plan. But we build a company to sell so it's valuable. And maybe if you build a company to sell, maybe you buy it from yourself and it's profitable. So just a couple numbers real quick that I'm going to go down that Mac shared with me that he's not going to share. So I'm just going to put it out there.
Are we sure we want to do this?
We're sure we're going to do this. So this is very simple. And Mac said to me, like, dude, I don't know how many people you told me that you're going to need to get to 2,000 doors, but out of 380,000 people, houses in Chattanooga, he said, I think I can get 2,000 of those under my management belt. So let's just do quick numbers. 2,000, average rent rate of I'm going to say $1,800. Is that high?
That's low. So the average rent for Chattanooga is $2,100.
Okay, hang on. I got to remath now. So $2,100. As a property manager, you're charging how much percent? Let's just say on average 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, running on 6%.
What? You're at 6%? Everybody call Mac Hibbett. I'm kidding, kind of.
Kind of.
Okay, so let's say you get 2,000 properties, and this is for anybody out there. Max said that it's not rocket science. You just have to do a good job, do good by your clients, do good by your tenants, and it's not easy, but, it is attainable. So at 2,000 properties at 10%, so that's $210 a month per door. So if you do quick math and somebody was to be able to gain 2,000 doors at an average of $2,100 a month and you're averaging 10%, the gross income, anybody want to take a guess at the end of the year? Madison?
Over $5 million.
$5,040,000. So on a subscription-based company like that, you have contracts in place. You've just built a company that's at a 1x sell rate, which, subscription-based companies are probably 2 to 4, but you're grossing $5 million a year.
Fantastic.
So how many people so right now you got 180 doors and you've got 2 employees. Mm-hmm. How many people realistically is it going to take to go to 2,000?
Well, so
because you're still coaching baseball.
Well, no, full disclosure though, I am with Crye-Leike. So Crye-Leike, being a part of Crye-Leike, they do provide some assistance along with the property management side. So of those 2 employees, those are my employees. There are a couple of people behind the scenes with the accounting department that are there. So there's really, right now, I would say that there's a total of 5 of us. Okay. But 2 of those people, that comes out of my company's split, let's say.
Yeah. So the other 3 are part of what gets paid to Crye-Leike.
Correct. Yep.
And so how many people are going to have to be under your direct management for 2,000 doors?
That would be basically 1 person per 180 doors. And so let's just say let's round it up to 200. So you're going to need 10 people.
Okay.
Yep.
That doesn't seem too bad.
So, but you have 2 employees now.
Correct. So you only have 180 doors. So bust his balls, Madison.
I'm just wondering, at what point did you hire those 2 people? How many doors did you have?
So the first person, I started hiring people back when I had 60 properties, but it was part-time work. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you also understand what I do. I also, I didn't come on here to talk about my real estate business. I came to talk about my property management business. So I also sell a lot of real estate as part of, something else that I do. And we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the property management stuff. So along with that, my time gets gobbled up. And so I did, for those 60 properties, I hired somebody that was part-time. And then I grew up to like 120 and then full-time at that point. And then, 150, for kind of what we're doing as part-time stuff, we had to hire another person. Mm-hmm. And so they do more than just property management. They also assist in my sales stuff as well. So it's just kind of a team Mac Hibbett, I guess, And
they're just sharing the responsibilities.
Correct.
Right. And you work with a lot of investors.
Correct.
So Mac, so that's why you have 2 people, because you're doing multiple things. Congratulations. Tell us, Mac, one of our favorite things to talk about, a big failure. Tell us about a big failure that you've experienced that you've learned from.
Well, my biggest failure was teaching Malcolm's son's first baseball. So that was a big mistake. And what I learned from that is pick better friends.
That's fair.
No, I'm just kidding. No,
that's fair.
Atlas is a stud. He's a stud.
He loves the game a lot, but he's just bad at it.
No, he's not. He's a stud.
Okay.
He's a stud.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm pumped, And And I did not have it planned to coach anybody. So I thought I was going to go in there and draft, and be able to pick all these people and create this team. It's not what it was, I mean, they just came in here and said, here's your list of kids. And I was like, sweet, we got on the same team, which was awesome. And then for T-ball, they sent out another list and I got Maverick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God, I hope you like me. We're going to see a lot this season.
You texted me the other day and you're like, hey, I got both your kids. I'm like, where are you finding the time to do this? So, Mac, so tell us about a big failure in business or personal life. Doesn't matter.
I would say a failure that is ongoing is I always want to go the cheap route out instead of looking for the value in a service. And so basically, an example would be just cheaping out on a project, cheaping out on some type of service. There was a time where me and my wife were renovating a house and we were living on a mattress and studded out walls. You could literally see, we kept everything, or we did not have anything but the toilet. So we're literally looking through stud walls and we're sleeping on a mattress in there.
I'm sure she loves you for that.
Oh, she hated it. Yeah. I was showering in the backyard with a hose.
Yeah.
And she had a gym membership and I wanted to cheap out it. Wanted to buy 2 gym memberships, And so she had a shower. I had the hose in the backyard, and the contractor basically went over budget, ditched out on us, ran out of town because he was screwing up a lot of different jobs. And, we were stuck having to finish this house by ourselves. So, that would be one of my biggest failures. And what I've learned from it is I've done a lot more successful jobs. So I just wrapped up a flip last week that I hired a contractor of value, not worried about the cost. And it was a home run. We went in there, remodeled this place, got it up, in the market that we're in. It was on the market for 4 hours and got over asking, and it was a solid deal. And so that just goes to show, using somebody of value or a quality service provider and not trying to cheap out all the time, you can get great rewards doing that. And so I do have a challenge with myself of always saying, man, I could do this so much cheaper, or I could do it myself, but that's time and money, So that's a big failure of mine.
So I think we're all kind of guilty of that. You bring a great example up is when we did our house, they sent over, the builder had sent over his HVAC guys, and they couldn't fix something. So I called my HVAC guys, and my wife was there, and I said, hey, did they fix it? She said, well, they weren't able to fix it, but they wore shoe covers and didn't smell like rape and cigarettes. So there's that. Eventually they fixed it. But I'm like, yeah, that's the difference. So where do you think you and where do you think we get that from? Is that like being raised from parents that went through? I think
it could be some trauma in that, or it could be raised from parents of a Great Depression, or I think it's all ingrained in your brain. I think you have to constantly surround yourself with people that are going to push you and grow you. And so, I think that's where it is. And I think it's easy to get sucked into that analyzing of, hey, is this going to cost X? And trying to go out a different route, when really, if you surround yourself with people that are better than you, that are always pushing you to strive to get stronger, faster, whatever, you're going to push to do that. And so I think I think it has something to do with kind of your environment. And yeah.
So again, for the third time, Mac says he needs better friends. Mac, hey, tell us, do you have a favorite routine?
I do have a favorite routine.
Talk to us.
Like, what do you mean? Work-wise?
My
work-life balance?
Doesn't matter, dude. Like, my favorite routine's putting the kids to bed.
Oh.
And that's
your favorite thing.
That really is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Okay.
I like training and stuff, but my favorite, routine in the day is my wife and I put the kids in the bath, and then one of us, we take turns, putting the kids to bed, and that is actually my favorite routine.
Well, I would say that's not too different from what I have, with having 3 boys, it's a handful. And my wife, stays at home with them. We homeschool them. So like, it's just a lot of work. She's just burdened with them. I don't want to say burden. She loves it. She loves it. It's not burden, but basically she's exhausted at the end of the day, you know?
Sure.
So, where I come in my routine is basically, I wake up and I'm usually making them the breakfast every morning, getting them ready for the day before I get off to work. I do try to get in the office as early as possible. We usually have some type of team meeting in the mornings, and we go over our list of to-dos. And then we tackle the day. Dinner is very important in our household. We had a lot of marital issues with me working so hard and long. And so one of that was missing dinner time with my kids. And so basically, I come home 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Every single day, I'm having dinner. We do a sit-down dinner at our table.
Hell yeah.
And then if I do have to go back out to work to show a house, things like that, I'm going out, after that 7:30, 8. I do put the kids down. They will not go down if my wife tries to put them down. She just can't do it. They don't listen to her.
Like, we've been listening to you all day, Mom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, they go down for me, so we put them down usually around 7:30. And that's what makes it tough for baseball.
Yeah, right. Especially when you're like, hey, we got practice tomorrow at 7:30. I'm like, dude, I'm in bed.
Right.
So, Mac, tell us, for our listeners, as far as property management goes, what would be one thing that you could tell our listeners that would be a positive return on investment that they could do right now if they wanted to be a property manager?
So they're not in it yet. They just want to start?
Let's say they've just started or they do want to start.
Let's say they're started.
Sure. Okay.
And they have like maybe a dozen properties or something.
Okay.
I would say, and I know everybody hears this, and this is like so not helpful, but it is communication, so in the property management world, communication is key. And most of my clients come over to me from other companies because of poor communication. And that could be from owners not understanding the owner statements, not understanding why they're not getting paid something, why there's a vendor charge of $500 and they're freaking out about why they're only making $200 this month instead of making $2,000 this month. And so communication is key with that. And so same thing with the tenants. Toilets clogged, it's overflowing, it's soaked their carpets. There's basically a flood going in the house and they are freaking out and they don't know what to do, And what I hear and from a lot of management companies is they say that they don't have a process of where you can actually speak with somebody on the phone. And so I think that would be an immediate return on investment is picking up the phone and answering those tenant calls. Those are tough calls. When someone's cussing at you because there's, gray water flowing in through their house and their dog's trampling it through all the house, and they're like, what do we do? And if you're afraid to pick up the phone and talk to them and talk them through that situation, you're going to have a lot more drama that is just easier just to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm sorry that this is happening to you. This is unforeseen, let's figure this out together.
That actually is valuable, Mac. I mean, communication is huge. And you know what? I'll actually give the listeners a reason why we moved from one of our property managers to you as recently. It's one, communication, yeah. But the complexities that people want to make it to be, like our other property managers, you have to sign into some silly software that takes a 2-factor authentication and this, and then there's like 9 different owner statements and like rent rolls, and this property's taken in this, but it's actually paying for this property, and you're like, I just need to know like what's being like going on and just uncomplicate the shit out of it, man.
So we do the same thing. But the difference is when you call me, I can walk you through the statements.
Fair.
There is some behind the scenes accounting that we have to do in order to make things make sense. And not everybody can understand that software. I've been doing this for 14 years. You've been doing it for a long time, but you haven't seen our software for a long time.
Sure.
So you don't know it. And so you need somebody to explain it to you. And I guarantee you, if anybody listening to this, if they call their property manager, will they pick up on the first ring?
You're right. I haven't even actually seen the software, the owner's reports and stuff, because I know that I can call you and just say, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And it's that easy. So that's a good nugget there, dude.
Yeah.
So before we started recording, you mentioned a couple of other things that you did in the past, like the landscaping business, and you worked for the tree.
Yeah, I was a tree climber. Yep. Tree climber. I was a arborist tree climber. So basically,
arborist. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. Can you just give like the highlights on what you've done in the past and how they helped you prepare for what you do now?
Yeah. No, I think those are a valid question. So this is going to sound so... I've never had a job, you know? So like there was one time in college, I went and worked for a restaurant, and I was there for like...
Sounds like a job.
Yeah.
I was there for 3 months. And, you know, I would want to go backpacking or rock climbing or hiking or paddling or to do something. And I was always taking off, and they were like, you can't do this. And I was like, I'm doing this, you know, like, I'm sorry, like I'm doing this. And so I was always getting written up and constantly in trouble of trying to like go against the grain. So, but before that, you know, I had a lawn care company in high school. We cut a lot of yards, and, you know, there was a part of my high school where I would go through 3 periods, and then I would go and I would work during the day, and then I'd come back for practices. And so, you know, I always had something that I was doing. You know, during college, you know, I framed houses, you know, I laid floors for dentist offices, you know, I built a cabin, you know, lawn care, worked for another buddy, you know, so I always had these jobs that I could always go to. And so I never really had anything formal where, hey, let's clock in here. It was more of like, hey, I have these 10 yards that need mulch and landscaping, these shrubs installed, doing whatever you want. I'm going to pay you X, you know, and knock it out on your own time. And I would do it. So like I always had something that was different, which grew me into being self-employed. Being self-employed is, it's not impossible. It is tough.
Does that answer your question, Madison?
Mm-hmm.
So like being useful, like doing valued shit.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, so like, you know, waking up.
It's not that tough.
Well, okay, waking up and sitting there and saying, you know, I probably need to call 150 people today, you know, and just ask them if they want, you know, if they need anything, you know, do they need a household? Do they need management? Do they need this? You know, like that's not easy, you know, to wake up and do those things, to wake up and go knock on doors. Like some people have a hard time without somebody sitting there saying, hey, here's your duties. Here's your task. You know, this is what you're going to do every day. Here's your scope of work, and I'm going to pay you for this to do this. You know, it's different being self-employed where you have to figure out what you're going to do each day, you know, and I think it's tough, and I think you can get caught in the weeds and get caught behind on, you know, am I doing enough to continue my business and to grow? And I mean, being self-employed, you I guess the saying is you eat what you kill. Mm-hmm. And if you're not out there working, grinding and hustling, you're not going to make any money. And
you got to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Mac, are you an Audible guy? Do you read books, podcasts? Do you have a book recommendation is what I'm asking.
I do have a book recommendation.
What is it?
It's called The Hidden Life of Trees.
Okay.
Basically, it's this forester out of Germany, and they did some studying on trees that they communicate with each other.
Oh,
I think I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Where they talk to each other, right?
They talk by vibrations and sounds, and they basically have this connection point under the earth that we don't see, and how they can tell when a bird's coming in or a pest is starting to eat some of the leaves, that they start putting out toxins or scents in the air so that the birds don't attack the rest of the trees. And so they can feed off of each other. Like if one's stressed, you know, they can send nutrients through the root system. So there's this.
And like if one gets cut, they like send extra nutrients.
Correct. And so, you know, a lot of people don't know this is I have a tree farm. And so I grow loblolly pines, and I'm a pine plantation grower. And so trees and wildlife management, habitat management is pretty much my hobby, so I spend a lot of my time podcasts, reading on, I read textbooks. I've read a textbook on forestry management. I read a textbook on, the biology of a turkey. So, I mean, that's kind of what I do and what I read about. But I think it's a really cool book for everybody to read that talks about the hidden life of trees, because it's the communication of vibrations. And if you feel like, everybody's read maybe not The Secret of Life or the Secret, talking about, positive attitude, that you're going to emit these vibrations off to you. And then I'm going to attract you to come hang out or want to be around me because of my vibrations, and people call that karma. People call that, feng shui, or I don't know what else people call it. They call it all the different things. But I do believe that there is some type of hidden vibration or something that we all emit, that attracts people around you. So positive attitudes attract other positive attitudes around you. So that's a book that talks more about the trees.
My wife has that book, by the way. I think I've read
Which one, The Secret?
No, the Hidden Life of Trees. Yeah, that's where and I was like, this hippie shit. But it's actually really neat. Yeah, once you get into it, especially, since you have a tree farm and you're a former arborist. Mac, the question of the day is here at Square One Podcast is we ask if Mac could go back in time and talk to his younger self, what would you go back to the square one beginning of your career? What would you tell yourself?
Don't be afraid to take risks. Am I supposed to elaborate on this?
That I think we all get. But now, like you told me yesterday, you need to take more risk.
Right?
Okay.
So that's why I would go back and tell myself this, because, when you don't take risks, you don't have reward. And if you're not willing to fail and fall on your face, you're not going to grow and become somebody that is great in your own eyes. Everybody has their own image of what great is or success, But if you're not willing to fail or take those risks,
you're not going to get the reward.
You're not. Well, I mean, you get some reward. It's just not great,
That's that's a great, something for all of our listeners is if you're going to launch your thing, if you're going to go out on your own, if you're going to, take a big level position, it comes with risk. If you don't want big reward, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, if you don't want to put out the risk, you're not going to get the reward.
Correct. Yeah.
If you're not going to gamble the money, you're not going to win the fucking jackpot.
Right.
Sorry, Madison.
You got him heated up. Okay, Mac, where can people get in touch with you?
So you can go to machibbett.com. And so there's information on there about me and my services. You can call me on my cell or text me, 423-596-3004, or email me at mac.hibbett@clhomes.com.
Are you on social media?
Oh.
No.
I am, okay? I struggle with social media. So I know you guys don't like to hear this, but I was forced to be on social media when I got into the real estate world. I did not want to be
Malcolm.
on it. And so, I am on social media. I should do better on social media.
Okay.
So email or text or call, but
call me. Just call me.
Don't DM Mac. He's not going to answer that one. Mac, thanks a ton, dude, for coming on and bringing some positive energy. We appreciate you and look forward to the baseball season this year.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Square One podcast, brought to you by Omni Home Services. We represent Chattanooga Home Inspector, Nuclear Pest Control, Elevate Home Staging Design, Radon Eraser, and hopefully more business entities in the future. We release a new episode every Thursday. If you like this episode, share it with your friends, neighbors, real estate agents, or whoever. Make sure you subscribe to Spotify, Apple, or wherever the hell you listen to your podcasts.